What's founders' preferred stock, and should founders use it?
This is one thing that we get asked a good amount, and it's one of those areas that a lot of people get wrong in terms of how they understand it. It is not really preferred stock. Essentially, what it is a way for founders to get liquidity a little bit easier, a little bit more tax efficient in some ways when it comes to how they might sell their shares. So, in other words, when a founder sets up a company, they can have a portion, usually should be just a portion of their shares set aside as founders preferred versus common stock, which is what founders typically get. And founders preferred does one very specific thing, which is later on in the company's evolution, if the founder finds a buyer that wants to purchase shares from them secondarily, and that founder sells those shares to an investor in conjunction with an equity financing, those shares will convert as part of that sale into the series of shares of preferred stock that the company is selling in that same equity financing when it transfers hands into the hands of the investor. So you start a company, usually you get common stock. Let's say you're a founder, you get 20% of your shares in founders preferred. At the time of your Series B financing, you're able to sell a little bit of your shares, tap into some liquidity. When you sell your shares to whatever portion of shares of founders preferred that you sell to an investor, the founder will receive Series B shares. The reason that this can be very good is that preferred shares theoretically and oftentimes practically are more valuable than common stock. So investors are happy. A lot of times your existing investors are not quite as happy because what happens is these shares, when they get into the hands of investors, because they were not bought by the company for money that went into the company's bank account, the investors oftentimes get what we call unpaid liquidation preference. So they're getting a liquidation preference for the shares that they're receiving that wasn't for funds that was invested in the company. So sometimes investors, when they go to invest in your company in the first instance, they see founders preferred, and it's a little bit of a red flag. So for first-time founders, sometimes we say maybe you don't want to rock the boat and put founders preferred into your company. If you're an exited founder, you feel like you know the rules of the road, maybe you have some investor connections, then we are a little bit more comfortable with advising founders that it's something that you might want to try to put into your company.